everyone, to Blitzball Battle 3, this Game 7. Como versus Forgotten Rotten. It's got a lot of weight on it. Me and Peter feeling good about it. And there's a lot of different scenarios that this game actually means. But Chris Rose is going to be the one that breaks that down because, truthfully, neither of us are smart enough for that. But Pete, I'm just being honest. How are you feeling about this matchup?
I'm feeling good. You know, Plouffe had a big moment last game, so I'm interested to see whether he can come down from that, honestly. You know, he struggled a little bit. He says that his barrel's there now. He talks a lot of information. Talks a lot of information. I don't think that's a complete sentence, but I understood what you were saying. This is why we don't speak about the scenarios. We let Chris Rose do that. But I actually had a chance to talk to them today, Forgotten Rotten, and they had some interesting things to say. Let's just say that. You guys are ranked 3. Como is ranked above you guys, regardless of the preseason standings. How does that make you feel?
I don't really care, but I think it's silly how we were ranked number 1. We won our game in dramatic fashion. And now we're ranked 3?
I don't think it's going to affect the end result or anything. But, yeah, we were the number 1 seed, did our job, and we got, in a way, penalized for it. But it's all good. It's all good.
So you guys watched Como play yesterday. What are some holes you see in their game, and how are you going to essentially poke in that and win?
I'm not going to talk crap about them. They're a very good team, okay? They play a lot of blitzball. Dan and I, we're like Brooks Koepka, like 17 through 19. We show up to the majors, we win the majors, we go home. That being said, I think Como I can exploit. Pitching-wise, I don't think they're going to score off me. And if Dan has a day offensively like he did yesterday, there's no stopping us.
I'm not sure how used they are to the East Coast air. Now, that could play a role. Didn't yesterday, I know they won, but they're Missouri kids.
Take some shots right now, kid.
Yeah, go ahead, shoot some basketball. And while you're doing that, Trev, what's your pitching strategy?
I'm not going to show all my pitches in this game. That's my strategy. I'm going to get these guys out with 2 pitches.
All right, thank you for your time. Enjoy this setup. Have you made one yet, Dan? I made 2. Okay. All right, Moylan, what do you got on what Trev is planning to do this game?
It's interesting. The question's going to be which 2 pitches does he choose? Yep. And the other question is which arm angles are you going to throw them from? So I hate saying this. He's a talented guy. He's a gifted athlete. I think he's going to be just fine. The
thing with Como, though, is that both of their guys can pitch. And now Dan Rourke can step up, and he can throw some strikes here and there, but that's going to be the interesting part because he still has to get those 2 outs.
Correct. He has to dial it down. Not often I tell Dan to dial anything down. He was in here before almost asleep. I said, mate, you got to stay right here because your adrenaline, when it kicks in, it's too much. You can't get the velocity down. Got to calm it down just a bit.
Yeah, I actually asked him, I don't know if you remember Blitzball Battle 2, but he did that weird walk up, step, pitch and whatnot. I asked him why he's not doing this in Blitzball Battle 3, and he was actually telling me it's because he has more control whenever he just stands and throws, which, I mean, as a pitcher, would you agree with that?
No, but you also can't run up to the mound, so
that's true.
You got to pick one of them.
That's true. Okay, enough of us talking. Let's throw it to Jolly Olive on some incredible stats. Jolly?
Thanks, guys. We have a really fun matchup for Game 3 of Day 2 as we continue to get closer and closer to the playoff bracket. It's the 2-time champ Forgotten Rotten versus the newcomers Como Blitzball. Both of these guys had great showings in their first game. Trevor Plouffe, of course, hit a walk-off grand slam to upset the hook, line, sinkers and steal a victory 4-1. That was just the 2nd home run of his entire warehouse career, if you can believe that. On the other side, his home run allowed to Drew Davis was the first of his pitching career, so kind of spotless records got tainted there by Trevor Plouffe. As for Dan Rourke, his teammate, he walked 2 batters, he allowed 2 hits, but he got his 2 outs and only allowed the 1 run. So hopefully we see a few more strikes from Dan Rourke today. We talked a little bit last time about his struggles to throw strikes on the mound. It was a similar strike percentage, but if he can get outs in clutch spots, they could maybe squeak out another win with him on the mound. On the other side of things, we got our first taste of Sammy Reazer and Caden Sartain. Reazer recorded 4 outs on the mound without allowing a hit. He did walk 3 batters, but he looked pretty dominant on the hill. Caden did allow a first pitch home run to K-Mac in their game. That was the only run allowed to McFlurry Power. He featured only a 4-seam fastball and a 2-seam fastball, averaged out at about 67 miles per hour, so he looked great on the mound, and he came up big offensively against McFlurry Power with a single, a double, 2 RBIs, and a walk. So Caden appears as the hitter, Sammy appears as the pitcher, but maybe as we find out more about them, their roles could switch. But either way, a win against Forgotten Rotten would be massive for their warehouse resume and a huge moment going into the playoff bracket.
Jolly Olive, what an incredible human, always on top of his information. But now we need to talk about the other team going up against Forgotten Rotten, Como. And truthfully, they had some very interesting things to say when I interviewed them earlier. So yesterday you guys were talking a lot about how you haven't really been ever playing in an environment like this. How are you feeling about going up against the 2-time champion team?
Oh, well, we definitely haven't been here. He's definitely been here, so that's a big disadvantage. But, as you can tell, we're pretty comfortable in the warehouse, just getting a nap in before our game later. So after a whole day here yesterday, I think we're comfortable enough to, it doesn't matter who's on the other end of the field. We're going to put up a good fight.
So, also you guys have never played with a speed limit, but yesterday you settled in really well. Now you're going up against Trevor, Plouffe, and Dan Rourke. What holes do you see in their game, and how are you going to take advantage of that?
Yeah, I will have to say, right now, Sammy sits as the number 5 player in the world. Trevor Plouffe sits as number 3. So it will be a great matchup today, but I have trust in Sammy that he will outplay Trevor Plouffe today. So I'm very confident. Also, Sammy, here's the 2023 Blitzball World Series trophy if you want to hold it for us. Yep.
Okay, well, you guys sleep well. I'll see you at the game. All right, Peter, what do you got on what Como was saying about the ranking and matchup?
Well, what's interesting, you may not know this, but the very man that makes those rankings has been sitting in our grandstand. So I would say he may be on a scouting trip, checking out who else could potentially be in that top 5 rankings.
It would make sense.
Because there's a couple of guys here that I'll put in there right now.
I mean, we have 2 of the top 5 players in this matchup in the world. 3 and 5. And that I think is something that you don't see often in this warehouse. And I think it's going to, ultimately, I'm pretty excited about this matchup.
It's going to be huge.
It's going to be huge. But before he goes to the booth and I go to the field, we got to talk about these sunglasses that are on our face. I know you've been thinking this entire time, why do Pete and Pax look so good? It's the Shady Rays.
You're right.
It's the Shady Rays. It's not the flexing, it's the Shady Rays. And Shady Rays is giving us a promo code warehouse for 40% off your pair of sunglasses. And it also gives you a link to an exclusive collab with Jimmy and Jake. Yes, Jimmy and Jake have created their own pairs of sunglasses. I know, it's crazy. Who knew? Creatives. Anyways, be sure to get a pair of sunglasses at shadyrays.com. Use code warehouse for 40% off and an exclusive link. Pete, got anything else?
All right, let's take a look at the number 1 overall seed scenarios. If this game goes the distance, meaning that the home team Como ends up hitting twice, the winner of this game, if they're the victor by 2 or more, they're the number 1 overall seed. If they win by just 1, they tie Lovia's for the number 1 overall seed, and our tiebreaker will be a swing-off. However, if Como does not hit in the bottom of the second, they only bat once, they are the number 1 overall seed come playoff time.
Wow.
Peter Moylan, I hope you understood that.
So much to play for. Have no idea, but I just love being here. Thanks for having me.
I'll be explaining it throughout the game if you're a little bit confused.
Thank you. For the folks at home, right?
No, for you.
Okay.
Paxton Elrod, what's going on down there on the cement?
Truthfully, I think we're in for a really good matchup. Let's remember this statement by Trevor Plouffe. He believes that he can expose Como pitching-wise, and if Dan Rourke has the offensive performance that he had yesterday, then it's a no-brainer win. And I have a few things to say about that, but the main thing being that Trev's humble classes are really starting to set in, aren't they?
I think we're going to have to re-up for those because apparently they didn't take in the first 16 classes we all pitched in to buy him.
This is going to be a great matchup, guys. And truthfully, my prediction for this game, it's a hard one, but I gotta roll with Rotten. I have to.
I got to do the same. I can't bet against Trevor. I've just seen too much greatness from him.
So I picked Forgotten Rotten to 3-peat. But I think they're going to need to grind a little bit to get there. I like the new kids on the block. I think they're going to end up being the number 1 overall seed heading into the tournament. Doesn't mean that I am getting off the Forgotten Rotten train because postseason is way different than the regular season. Okay? This is going to be a fun one. Make sure you tune in tonight on our YouTube channel. Warehouse Games, 6 o'clock Eastern. The game drops. For Paxton Elrod, Pepita Moylan, I am Chris Rose. We will see you tonight for Forgotten Rotten, Team Como, 6 o'clock Eastern. Thanks for tuning in here to the Shady Rays pregame show.